Hey Libertarians, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I've been doing this show now for over 3 years, I believe, and over 200 episodes, and had on more than 200 anarcho-capitalists or anarchists or voluntarists on this program. And it's kind of interesting to me that it's sort of come to this full circle now, 3 or 4 years later, that I'm officially announcing I'm running for the government of Canada. And so we're going to get into all of this and why I decided to do it, and why I think it's really important, and I think it's incredibly important, and or I wouldn't do it. And I have Tim Moen on with me today. He's the leader of the Libertarian Party of Canada, the Ron Paul of Canada, as I call him. Amazing guy, totally amazing guy. Everything I've ever seen or heard from him is amazing. He's actually sort of like a real leader, which you know, it's kind of rare to see in sort of politics. But he's an amazing guy, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. And I guess we'll sort of start off, Tim, talking about why it's important for people who don't necessarily like or believe in government to actually get involved in the political system.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, I too have come full circle, Jeff. I mean, 2 years ago, I wrote an article explaining why voting is borderline immoral and how, at the very least, it's beneath our dignity, and we ought to just look our slave masters in the eye and take our 40 lashes instead of trying to get a few less lashes. But I couldn't refute the evidence that Ron Paul made a huge difference in terms of bringing people the message of liberty. And I think that we'd all agree that our best hope forward is to bring people the message, is to turn hearts and minds over to the message of liberty. And ultimately, I realized that I was falling prey to the same type of thinking, same type of magical thinking that statists engage in that, there is a state that exists on some plane, and that when you cross the threshold into politics or into working for government, that suddenly you have become someone different. Now you're the bad guy, you're evil. And I don't think that's right. I think that politicians, I think that what we have is essentially a mass delusion. And our job as liberty activists is essentially to disabuse people of this mass delusion, so that we don't end up with a group of people over there, those individuals, monopolizing force and using it to solve every problem that comes their way. So, we have to get the message out. We have to connect with hearts and minds. We have to convert people in a sense. And one of the problems is that, for too long, liberty activists, I think, have kind of poo-pooed political action, saying that it's something different than just standing up on a soapbox and preaching to people about liberty. And in reality, it's not. I mean, the state doesn't exist. When we stand up on that stage, there's nothing magical about it. We're simply talking to people. Someone, I think it was another anarchist that gave me a hard time when I first started getting into political action, Ethan Herclesian, and he took me to task on his podcast, and basically said, well, look, if you're an atheist and you're trying to disabuse people of religion, you don't go stand up at a pulpit and preach to them in front of the church. And I said, well, why wouldn't you? I mean, if they're going to give you the opportunity to stand at the pulpit, and if you truly believe that the people in the congregation, their belief system is harming them, why wouldn't you stand in the pulpit and try to convince people and reach them and empathize with the way they feel and try to find ways to communicate to them? Why wouldn't you do that? That it's an opportunity being presented to you, but to stay away from it, but to say this, if I go up there, I'll be inherently promoting the system is kind of silly. And I'm under no illusions that if we form government, that we'll be able to create freedom. I don't think freedom is created that way. So let me reassure your listeners that I'm under no delusion that change occurs from the top down. I think that the only thing that can occur from the top down is chaos and disorder. And so the goal here isn't to seize the reign of power and then set everyone free, because it doesn't work like that. What works is, I believe, reaching a 10% tipping point of hearts and minds. I mean, research has shown this, that when 10% of people adopt an unshakable belief system, that a new order emerges, that the rest of the population invariably adopts that belief system. This is true of abolition, civil rights, women's suffrage. In Canada, unfortunately, it was true about socialized medicine. But we can use that, I think, to advance liberty. And so, when anarchists or libertarians say, well, we should vacate the vote or something like that, well, that just doesn't work. It works as much as voting, which is to say not at all. So then why engage in political action? Well, when you get votes, and if by chance we win a seat in Parliament, we have a bigger soapbox to stand on. That's it. So, giving a vote to a libertarian or an anarchist is a tantamount to saying, we want you to stand on that stage and deliver a message. And it's not that we're going to be able to repeal legislation and create a freer society from government, but what we will be able to do is achieve a freer society by connecting more people to the message. And so my goal is to get liberty activists out of this echo chamber where we sit in these Facebook rooms and these chats and find the 1% of things that we disagree on, amplify those differences and create all this drama, and get them focused on the low-hanging fruit. There are people out there that love this message, that want to hear this message. I've seen it in the past year as leader of this party when, for 10 years as a liberty activist, blogging, doing videos, podcasts. I've never had the results I've had in the past year, reaching people who have never heard the message before, having it resonate with them, having them enthusiastically support and get together and advance liberty. So I just think that libertarians are, their superstitions are preventing them from really unleashing the kind of activity and change that could happen. So, I'm happy to see that you've come full circle like I have. And good God, Jeff, I hope we're not doing the wrong thing and leading people down the garden path to the state. But my heart tells me we're on the right path here.
Yeah, mine as well. You brought up so many great points, and one of them was about how that many people who call themselves anarchists or anarcho-capitalists or voluntarists, for people who don't know what anarchy means, if you're watching this because you're a libertarian and you heard about this video, anarchy just means you don't want to be ruled and you don't want to rule other people, and that's all it means, and doesn't mean violence and doesn't mean anything bad. It's not scary. It's actually all about freedom. So if you're really into freedom, you should look into anarchy. But one of the things that you're talking about was how that so many anarchists, they just don't want to get involved in the political system, and that's such a huge soapbox, as you pointed out. And it's just amazing to me how so many of these very smart, there's so many great, very smart anarchists, anarcho-capitalists, great speakers, great talkers, but they just won't go near the political process, which I understand, and we understand. But I think if you really want to change things towards more freedom in the world, that you have to take advantage of every opportunity you have. And like you said, that soapbox is just sitting there, and a lot of the people who believe in a lot of really horrible things that are hurting them, which is government, for the most part, they don't know anything about what we're talking about, and they will listen to anyone who stands on that soapbox. So that's like just an opportunity sitting there just ripe. And I forget who said it. I think it was Ayn Rand. I always get quotes wrong, and I usually say it was said by someone who didn't say it, but I think it was Ayn Rand. And I know the quote's not going to be perfect, but the essential part of the quote was, you can not pay attention to government, but the government will pay attention to you. So the point of that quote is, yeah, you can say it's evil, and it is evil. The whole sort of, it just by its very nature is evil. It's thieving and manipulative and uses violence. That's evil. And so you could say, I just want nothing to do with that. And that's fine. I have no problem if that's what you want to do. That's your choice. But if what you really want to do is to get more freedom in the world, it's get involved in that system. Yeah, absolutely. And, there's a couple things that popped in my head to address. The first thing is, you're right. Ignoring politics doesn't ignore you. I mean, in my home riding of Fort McMurray, I think only 12% of people showed up to vote in the last by-election. And typically Canada only, I think, gets about 40% of the population of eligible voters voting. So the majority of people, in fact, the vast majority in my region, just don't vote. They have vacated the vote, and yet government is continuing to grow at an alarming rate. So vacating the vote doesn't work at all. If it did, then we'd only have 12% of the government in my region, and that's just not the case. In fact, if anything, vacating the vote has allowed it to go unopposed. But the second point is that the A word is a very scary term for some people, and it's a loaded term, and it's not a very
it gives people pause, I guess, when that term is used. But my understanding is, and my goal is, and the goal of the party is to reassure people that, I'm not going to Parliament to blow it up. I'm not going there to fire everyone and rip up all the rules. It's just simply not going to happen. It's not practical, and it's not probably the desired outcome. I mean, what we really want, I think the way freedom is really advanced is by alerting people to what's going on, to making them aware, to unplugging them from the matrix, and giving them the tools and the power to unravel the tentacles of the state from around their own necks. And I think it's only through an aggregate of hundreds of thousands and millions of individuals doing that we're going to see a tipping point towards solutions being generated in the free market. People glomming onto market and voluntary solutions rather than continually clamoring to government to fix all their problems, that we're actually going to see liberty advance. So, I mean, people that create Bitcoin and people that create, technologies and products, sound money that get people to the point where they're able to minimize the impact government has on their life. Those are the people that are really doing the work to advance liberty. But we're opening the doors. We're bringing people in. This is, we're the evangelical branch, so to speak, of the liberty movement. I'll go back to my evangelical roots and, talk about proselytizing. But there's something to be learned about that. I mean, there's a reason religion has been so productive, and we can take, what works from that and spread, the good news of liberty, so to speak. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. And we'll talk a little bit about how it is sort of like evangelical in the sense that it also needs money. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I just wanted to touch on one thing about action. I know there's going to be a number of anarchists down below on this YouTube video, and they're going to be all angry and say that I'm a sellout. And, now I want to get involved with government. I must be some sort of shill or something like that. I think anyone who knows me or has listened to me at all really understands why I'm doing it. But there's a thing about action that I really have started to dislike people who really troll or get angry or say bad things about people who are doing things when they're not doing anything. I see that all the time, especially on the internet, of course. And there's another quote I'll butcher. It goes something along the lines of, "If you're not doing, stay out of the way of those that are doing something." Now, of course, everyone makes mistakes. We might make mistakes along the way, but we feel, Tim and I both feel, that this is the right thing to do at this time. And actually, I'm super excited about it because I think there's going to be a worldwide revolution in libertarianism. We've already seen it. It's already started, but it's going to go exponential, in my opinion. And so it's going to be really exciting to see what happens over the next few months in Canada, over the next few years in the U.S. There's going to be you're there in Alberta. People who don't know Alberta, Canada, this is where I'm actually from. And it's been a very conservative place ever since I was born. It's very conservative, just like in the U.S., like Texas. It's the Texas of Canada. It's a lot of cowboys and stuff like that. And they just elected an all-communist government just recently. And that just showed one thing to me, that people are just pulling their hair out, trying to figure out what they need to do to fix this problem, which is always caused by government. And in the case of Alberta, they've gone like just crazy. They're like, let's try communism. So people are looking for something like real, and we're it. Like, this is real. We just got to get it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. People want to change, and they don't know. They have no background in political thought or philosophy. I mean, your listeners, and you and I, Jeff, just have to think back to our younger days. I mean, we weren't always libertarians. There was a time when we bought into the same thing, and it was a process to become converted, I guess, over to the message of liberty. And once you get there, you don't go back. I mean, it's like, abolitionism. Once you become an abolitionist, you don't go back to arguing about how to manage the plantation or how to, keep the slaves in line. You want to spread that message and try to promote abolitionism. Libertarianism is the same way. So I think we have a real tactical advantage from that perspective over other ideologies and political thought that kind of go with my feels, right? But your point about people, kind of trolling and cutting down people that are trying to do something, I think is well taken. I speculate, and this is kind of the amateur psychologist coming out in me, that one of the reasons why people are able to adopt the principles, to adopt the message of liberty and glom onto it, the early adopters, I like to call them, the leaders, they're people that are used to being marginalized in their lives. They're used to being on the out group. Maybe they're picked on, maybe whatever. But they're used to, going against the grain and being outside groups. I mean, you don't see a lot of prom queens and kings becoming libertarians, and there's a reason for that. I mean, the status quo and the social milieu, and that's very important to them. And libertarianism just challenges that whole thing. And so, but one of the problems that goes along with being marginalized and kind of in a way feeling oppressed and that sort of thing, we come from this sort of victim mentality a lot of the times, and we're continually raising our fists and railing against the state as if we have no personal power, as if we're totally ineffective. I think it becomes a habit. And I think, in fact, in a lot of ways, we become addicted to helplessness, that we self-sabotage ourselves, that we want to remain as victims somehow. But, when you think about liberty and you think about the way, Jeff, that you or I were able to apply it in our own personal lives to great benefit. I mean, for myself, with parenting and running a business and being a leader and different things like that, the message of liberty is just such a practical thing to apply to your own personal life and unleash all sorts of personal power and growth. It's not, and I think that's the message that's been missing. And I think that's the message that libertarians need to grab the next gear. We need to stop being victims. We need to stop tearing each other down. And we need to show people, we need to let our light shine and show people what's so attractive and empowering about liberty and how it can improve your own personal lives. And so, my challenge to people that are continually in the process of being negative and anti this and anti that, I understand where that comes from. I understand that, and it's important to push back against the state, but good God, people, we're on your team, and maybe you could join us. Maybe you could consider ways that you could support this. This is, at the end of the day, politics really, doesn't exist. It's just an organization, a group of people trying to get a message out, and that's the power of it. And the powerful thing about it is that we have to use the delusion against people in a sense, right? So they think that politics means something. They think that government means something. So let's stand up there, and you immediately get credibility for standing on that stage, and people listen to your message. You don't get any credibility from continually tearing people down, staying in an echo chamber, and staying in your comfort zone. You have to get out there where your knees shake a little bit, your voice quivers a little bit, and you take some risks and try to connect with people that might be hostile to you or might not be very welcoming to you. You have to go to where liberty is needed the most. You can't stay in your comfort zone.
Absolutely. Well said, as always. So if anyone missed it at the beginning, essentially, I've just announced on Wednesday, May 13th, it's actually the 12th today, we're pre-recording this, that I am running for the Member of Parliament of the Vancouver Centre region of British Columbia, Canada. So quite an interesting little thing I'm going to embark on here. But I think the more that I've thought about it, the more I think it makes total, absolute sense, as Tim has pointed out. And it really was only in the last few weeks that I was convinced of this. It was first Walter Block on our last Anarchast really convinced me that we should get involved in the political system. And then it was Darryl Perry, who is running for the president of the United States, who really has so many eloquent statements on why it makes sense to get involved in the system. And I think the more that I think about it, it's just obvious to me now that we have to. Of course we do. We can't just sit on the computer in our parents' basement, a lot of us, and just write bad things about statists and then tear other people like ourselves down because we're going to get involved with them. That's not going to help anything. And I think the more I think about it, I think we could really do something huge here. And I think there's going to be a huge explosion in libertarianism in politics. We're starting to see it all over the world, actually. And what it's going to take, though, is you guys getting involved. If you want to see a change in your world, you have to do something. That is a given. And it's not going to happen for you. And so if you really believe in spreading freedom, and if you're a Canadian, then look at the Libertarian Libertarian Party of Canada's website, libertarian.ca, I believe. And if you look and see if there's anyone in your riding, there's 330 ridings, I believe. Tim probably knows better than me. That is running for Libertarian Party. If there isn't, there's actually a forum right on the Libertarian Party of Canada website. This is how easy it is. You just go to libertarian.ca, you click on candidates on the top, and then at the bottom, you can apply to be a candidate. It's your name, your email, your province, your postal code, and an application form, I believe. So it's very easy. I would love to see, and I know you would too, Tim, to see the Libertarian Party of Canada have someone running in every district, or whatever they call them, jurisdiction, I like district, in Canada.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one of our strategic goals. You know, if we get someone in every district, or even close to that, or even half that. I mean, we're already breaking records, party records. You know, in the past year, there's just been a real hunger for liberty, and we're getting all sorts of support. And the approach we're taking, you know, that we're not chasing votes, but we're communicating with hearts and minds, and we're doing it pragmatically in a way that people can hear. That's really attracting a lot of people to the party. And we're trying to build, you know, a robust organization of activism, of people being able to, you know, a support network for people who really want to advance liberty. And one of the strategic goals then is to put liberty on the map by running nearly a full slate of candidates. And if we do that, well, then we become, you know, one of the four major parties in Canada, essentially. We have ammunition to get me in the leaders debate, get on stage with the big boys. And at the very least, we fire a shot across the bow of statism, and we come to the attention of a lot of people. And then over the next 4 years after that, you know, we build from there. And in 2019, we maybe get a few people elected into Parliament. It might even happen this year. Who knows if this thing gets rolling? You know, some of the things we're excited about. I mean, for, you know, Jeff, your district in Vancouver Centre has a lot of active liberty proponents, especially in the cannabis community. That for folks that don't know, downtown Vancouver is cannabis central. The government has basically, you know, it's federally still illegal, but the mayor of Vancouver has said, you know, we're not enforcing any of these federal laws. So there's like 80 dispensaries in Vancouver. You know, Mark Emery's down there. For those who don't know, Mark Emery is in Canada is called the Prince of Pot. He was extradited to the U.S. and spent 5 years in the pen there because he was selling seeds across the border to some Americans. He got, you know, extradited to Washington. And of course, the irony is that the very thing that he was doing after he was released, during his time incarcerated, it was actually became legal in that jurisdiction. So a horrible crime. But Mark Emery has run for the party before. He's a well-known libertarian in Canada. And unfortunately, he's backing the Liberals because he really wants cannabis legalized. But you know, all the people around him and the message that he brings is libertarian. So I think you're going to have a lot of support in Vancouver City Centre. And then the other thing that's really excited is, you know, we're planning this Liberty Tour right across Canada. So starting from Vancouver and essentially going coast to coast, coming to a town near you, we want to light up Canada with liberty and get a whole, you know, bus tour, convoy type thing going across, hitting every town along the way, supporting candidates, giving speeches, having concerts, you know, whatever we can do to really get kind of a energy pumped into Canada in terms of liberty. So I think there's a lot of things we can do, and I'm pretty excited about this.
Yeah, me too. It's the more I think about it, the more excited I get, and it's weird being an anarchist who's excited about getting involved in the political system. But I think the more I look at it, the more I see that this is just obviously an amazing way to get our message out there. And so for that reason, I kind of want to do a challenge here to all the libertarians in Canada, all the well-known libertarians, includes Stefan Molyneux, James Corbett, Wendy McElroy, Walter Block, Redmond Weisenberger of the Mises Institute of Canada, and many others. I challenge you to run for the Libertarian Party of Canada in whatever jurisdiction you want. And that's a whole other story. I've been learning all about how you decide on these things and all that. But I think, imagine if we all ran, we all have a very large audiences. James Corbett has a huge one. Stefan Molyneux has a massive audience. If we all ran, it would get a massive amount of attention, and it would make people question, what is this libertarianism? And then we'll tell them. And that's basically it. And then, and we could actually see an actual, like, as I pointed out in Alberta, just last week, they elected like a full communist government. And most of them were like university kids and like 18-year-old university kids. The people in Alberta just gave up. They just said, that's it. We don't know what to do. Just vote the most stupidest, craziest thing you can do. So I think the potential's there, even for this year, the election's in October in Canada. And I think the Libertarian Party, this is going to sound crazy, I think they can win for government if we all go for it. We have to just do this. We can win. Canada's kind of a funny place. So I'm from there. Tim's from there. They don't mind really crazy ideas. And I know our idea isn't crazy, but to them it is crazy. They don't mind prime ministers who are a bit crazy, who give the media the finger, who punch protesters in the face. They don't mind a mayor who smokes crack, and he's obviously got major emotional issues. So this is not out of the realm of possibility that if we all go for this and get involved, and when I say get involved, I mean if you're in Canada, you run for the Libertarian Party and you get out there and you do it. If you're not, you donate to the party or you get involved, try to give some sort of help to whatever they're doing. If everyone does this, it is totally possible that we could win the government of Canada this year. I know it sounds crazy, and it probably will sound crazy by October, because I probably won't, because you're not doing anything. But if you actually do it, if all of you guys do it, it's a real potential that the Libertarian Party will win, and Tim Moen will be prime murderer, prime sinister of Canada this October.
Jeez, the thought of swimming in that cesspool, I'm not sure. I'll have to bring my hazmat suit. But Jeff, I just literally handed in my letter of resignation at work, and I'm going all in on this too, because I believe so strongly in it. Got no guaranteed income, no security, I just so much believe in this, and I believe in the group of people that we're putting together. And I love the fact that you name names, calling people out. That's great. But listen, these people like Stefan Molyneux and Wendy McElroy and James Corbett, Walter Block, they're doing great things for liberty. And even yourself, Jeff, you're doing fantastic things for liberty. You guys are doers. And there's nothing wrong with the things that they're doing. And but a lot of people who want to be liberty activists, who want to create change, they don't have that audience. They don't have that build-up. And this is one way, for someone who's an up-and-comer who really wants to make a difference in the world, to do that, to make a difference and make their stamp on the world and start making a real difference like these other big names. So I love it. I love that you call these people out. I hope maybe we get one or two of them, but we just need people. We need people who are willing to stand on that podium, even though their knees are knocking a little bit, and knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and I think most libertarian-minded people can do that. You see them on the internet all the time discussing really intricate parts of philosophy of libertarianism down to the smallest minute detail. So obviously many libertarian or anarchist-minded people are quite intelligent, but I think a lot of them are quite introverted as well, and I think that's a big part of the reason that our message doesn't get out there a lot.
No, that's absolutely true. And you know what? I'm introverted too. On a personality testing, I come up introverted, and so I totally understand it. But you know what? Introverts are sometimes the best people. They have a lot of thoughtful things to say. They don't just blurt things out. Their words carry more weight a lot of times because they're well reasoned. And the difficult thing for libertarians who are very intelligent, they may understand very intricate syllogisms and philosophies, but they might not be so good at communicating. And you get very good at communicating when you engage in this political realm. When you're standing on someone's doorstep trying to explain in a minute what liberty means, you start to learn what works and what doesn't work. And so this is a fantastic way for people who want to develop their communication skills, because those are so important. This is the perfect opportunity for you to do that. People will listen to you. You will have their rapt attention, and they will be seriously listening to you. They won't be the type of people, I don't know if you've experienced this in the past when you've tried to maybe reach out to people who are statists or who are, you immediately get dismissed, and then you get your back up and you start engaging in this, whack-a-mole thing where you're batting each other over the head. Well, when you engage in this type of action, I've found that people very seriously want to understand it and are very curious and want to hear what you have to say. And it's alarming at first because, because your back is up, you're ready to fight. And then suddenly they're like very curious about what you have to say. And so it's just a great opportunity, and it requires you to engage a whole new part of your brain. It's kind of an entrepreneurial part of your brain where you try to put yourself in the other person's skin, imagine how they're hearing your words and perceiving your message. And you try to speak to them in a language that they can understand and introduce them to the concepts of liberty. And we're not going to get there in one day. We're not going to get there in one moment, but they have to hear it. And then you have to, there has to be some follow-up. They have to get interested and curious. And so our goal is to be make it very difficult for people to easily dismiss us. We have to speak their language.
It's a learning experience, and that's what I wanted to bring up was I've just started doing this in the last week, and I've already learned a lot of stuff, and I've met a lot of amazing people. So it's sort of like been a positive experience already. So I've learned how the political system works a bit more than I knew. Then that's very interesting how it does work. And then I've been meeting a lot of people at the Libertarian Party of Canada have been helping me to get ready to launch my campaign, and so many amazing people. So it's already been a great experience, and I haven't even started yet. So I really recommend to people out there to get involved. And if you're not in Canada, do it wherever you are. And even if you're not in Canada and you want to support us, because I think we have the best chance of any country I know of to actually get some real libertarians into the government. If you want, just support the Libertarian Party of Canada, and they really need it. As Tim pointed out, he's just doing this. He's just going for it. The Libertarian Party of Canada has no money, has no benefactors. They really have nothing. And then you look at their opposition, and they have millions and millions and millions of dollars all given to them by the same old people, the cronies and all those to keep doing what they want to do. But the libertarian community and the Libertarian Party of Canada can really use some funds. Maybe they could put up some posters. They can't do the full TV commercials like the other criminals, but they can do something if they have something. So if you go to libertarian.ca and you just click on Take Action, there's a donate button, there's monthly donations, there's Bitcoin. They accept Bitcoin, of course. And so that's one way you can help. Another way to help is to run, which if you're in Canada and there's no one in your jurisdiction, just go to libertarian.ca and click on candidates and just apply to run. And I think it's a great idea, and I think the time has come, and I can't see anything bad coming, like not a net bad. There might be some negative things that happen because of this or whatever, that life is a risk, but I can't imagine this being a net negative for liberty in the world, us really going for it and trying to get elected into the government of Canada.
No, I think you're right. I think that there's a lot of upside. I mean, there certainly is potential risk. I mean, we've experienced negative publicity, and there are heart-wrenching moments, and there are risky moments, especially if you have a candidate that goes off the rails. But you're right. I think nothing ventured, nothing gained, and I think that the risks, the benefits far outweigh any risks. And so yeah, you're right. I appreciate the fact that you're encouraging people to donate. You have to be Canadian, of course, to donate. So thanks to our American friends, but we can only accept Canadian donations, and that's one of the problems. Is that in Canada we have very strict finance rules for political action. We can't form a PAC and raise millions of dollars. If we could, then we could glom onto a few wealthy benefactors and potentially make a real big difference. But our donation limit is $1,500 a year to any political party. You can only donate $1,500 a year to a political party, and an additional $1,500 in an election year to a candidate. And also another $1,500 to an electoral district association. So at the most, during an election year, you can donate about, I think it's about $4,500 or something like that. So very small potatoes compared to the States. And because we're just a small and growing party, we just haven't reached the numbers yet to really pull in those micro donations that we need. So, but any little bit helps, and we use it well. None of us, are paid. We're all doing this voluntarily. And so your money will be put to good use.
Yeah, absolutely. You see so many people donating to so many causes, and I've always, of course, not liked political donations, but I think this makes sense for people who believe in freedom to support, especially the Libertarian Party of Canada. The Libertarian Party in the U.S., I don't know a lot about. I've heard a lot of things that they're not all that libertarian. I don't know, but I do know in Canada that the Libertarian Party was started by past Anarchast guest Sieg Pere in the 1960s. The last president, or whatever they called him, of the Libertarian Party of Canada was Katie Chown, past Anarchast guest, and past Anarchast guest Tim Moen is now the current president of the Libertarian Party of Canada. So there's a lot of people who believe in freedom that are involved with the Libertarian Party of Canada. In fact, I would say that of everyone I've met so far, I think they're all anarchists. So they don't want to call it the Anarchist Party of Canada. That probably won't get as many votes. But the libertarian word is a perfect word, because that's really what we're about. We're about liberty. Yeah. And of course, if you take libertarianism to its ultimate extent, that is anarchy. Yeah,
and just to comment on what's going on in the States, I think their Libertarian Party down there is having a lot of positive things. They're actually taking notice of what we're doing up here. I'm actually speaking at a convention in Washington with Gary Johnson and Ben Swan and a few other people. So I think that they are very interested in what we're doing, and I think that I really think that we're on the right track here. And you're right. The A word is kind of a touchy subject. My conception of liberty is that it's an ongoing process. There's never an end where you have reached an end point called libertopia. It just doesn't work like that. There's always going to be the state in some form or another. And so what I want to reassure people who are hearing this A word being thrown around quite a bit, that we're not talking again about if you were to blow up Parliament and fire everyone and rip up all the rules, you haven't eliminated the state. That's not how it works. The state is a mental model. It's in people's hearts and minds, and all that would happen is new gangs would form, violent gangs that would be mini states, and it would be gang warfare and different things like that. So you can't, and this is why revolutions always result in more government over time, violent revolutions. I mean, you just have to look at the American Revolution as an example. Canada stayed under the crown, and I think we're as free, or maybe even more free in some ways than the U.S. Maybe they should have stayed with the crown instead of losing all those lives for the revolution. But the thing that I think is the only chance we have is really to get rid of the state by hitting it where it actually lies, which is in the brains of statists.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one conclusion I've really came to over the last few years, is that it's all ideas, it's all mental, it's all there doesn't have to be any sort of physical violence involved in changing the system, and actually that will work against us, because what we're talking about is the non-initiation of violence, and many people, even though you could say that the government is aggressing against you, most people don't see it that way, and so you have to. The way that we change things is through our minds and through ideas, and no one's got better ideas than the Libertarians. And so if we can get a lot of people excited about this, get Tim onto the debate. Imagine that. Imagine just like with Ron Paul in the U.S., how amazing it was to have him speak, and he really toned it down. I think Tim would probably be even more outspoken than Ron Paul on liberty, and well-spoken. He looks the part. He could really get just a huge amount of people interested in this sort of thing, but we have to get out there. We all have to do our part to spread this, and it's the Canadian election is only in October, so we only have about 5 months, I guess, to do this. But we're going to be out here rocking it, and I hope a lot of you guys support us, because I think just watch what happens. That's all I'm going to say, is just watch what happens. I'm almost sure in the next few months you'll see things and hear things you've never heard before, and you'll be shocked that, whoa, liberty's on the front page of the Canadian national newspaper and things like that. We will affect these changes, and we need your support. So, and I know this sounds like a telethon now at this point, but just donate or get involved. That's the big thing, is really just get involved one way or another. If you're in Canada, come out to whatever events we go on the Liberty Tour. I'm going to try to get every major Liberty speaker in Canada to at least speak at that tour. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. We're going to get out there and shake some hands and kiss some babies and tell people we love them. And we're trying to help them. And actually, we're the only ones who are. So very interesting stuff. As I mentioned, I'm running. So this sounds really weird for me to say, but vote for me in this upcoming election. I actually don't. I don't know if I'll win or not. I actually think I could win, which is kind of scary. And I haven't even thought about what I'll do if I do win. But, just one step at a time, just pushing the ball down the field, as Tim likes to say. We'll put links down below to Tim's website, to the Libertarian Party of Canada website, to maybe some Facebook pages that have for the election, things like that. So you can check those out. And why don't you let us know, Tim, anything that we haven't touched on or anything you want to let people know as we finish up?
No, I think we've said it all. Like you said, Jeff Berwick for Parliament, man. Let's knock him dead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. And I think for those who doubt that we're going to have any effect, I'll bet you right now we're going to have some major effect. How much effect? That could be debatable. But we're definitely going to have some positive effect by doing this. So get involved. That's the big thing. Go to the Libertarian Party of Canada website once again. And if you're in Canada, run for the Libertarian Party. If there's a Libertarian Party on every ticket in every jurisdiction, which is over 300, that will get people's attention. Who is this Libertarian Party? That's what we want. We want to get people to know that there is another option out there, and it's the only good option. It's the only moral option is libertarianism. So that's it. Did you have anything you wanted to mention? Nothing at all? No websites or anything?
No. You could put them in the links down below. I would just encourage people to get involved. This is really exciting times for Liberty, and we're at the ground floor of this kind of startup, and now's the time to get on board. You could be an early adopter, and you could say you were there when history was made in Canada. So I encourage you to get on board.
Yeah, I used to hear people like Doug Casey or other people talking about how, I remember back in the 60s or 70s, we'd be at Murray Rothbard's apartment in Manhattan, and then Ron Paul would drop by, and Alan Greenspan, and who else would drop by? All kinds of, crazy, amazing libertarian people. Although Greenspan is debatable, but Ayn Rand would drop by, all these sort of people, right? So I always used to think, wow, like that must have been so amazing. And what I've realized as I've sort of been in the Liberty movement is it's quite easy to get to know some of the big names in the Liberty movement. They're out there. They want to meet you. Not always, not on their doorstep, but like they're open to people talking to them. And just getting involved with Libertarian Party can get you access to some really amazing, interesting people, and you can be at the beginning of something that I think will be in the next decade or two a huge movement, and you can say you were at the beginning. So get involved. I'm going to stop preaching, evangelizing, begging for money, and and all the things that politicians do. But that's it. I think it's going to be exciting. I think there's going to be a lot more to come in the next few months that I'll keep you updated on, and I'll probably be going across Canada on a train or on a bus trying to get people involved. So I'm out there. I'm going to do this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and we'll see what happens. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.